The door. She never wanted him to open. My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 34 years old, and until that afternoon, I believed I knew everything about the woman I was going to marry. Her name was Olivia. We had been together for 4 years. Our wedding was only 3 weeks away. I trusted her enough to put my entire future in her hands. Looking back, that was exactly why what happened next nearly destroyed me. It started on a quiet Saturday afternoon. Olivia had insisted we stop by an old cafe downtown. She told me she needed to pick up some paperwork. Nothing unusual, or at least, that's what I thought. As we parked outside, she suddenly grabbed my wrist before I could open the door. Her face had completely changed. She wasn't smiling anymore. She looked terrified. She leaned closer and whispered, "Please, don't tell my ex you're my future husband." For a second, I honestly thought I'd heard her wrong. "My what?" She looked around nervously. "He doesn't know." I stared at her. "What do you mean he doesn't know?" She swallowed hard. "Please, Ethan. Just pretend you don't know me." Every alarm bell inside my head started screaming. Pretend I don't know the woman I was about to marry? Who asked something like that? Before I could even respond, the cafe door opened. A tall man stepped outside, confident, well-dressed. He smiled the moment he saw Olivia, and she smiled back. Not politely, not awkwardly. It looked familiar, comfortable, almost automatic. She quickly stepped away from me, far enough that we no longer looked like a couple. Then she quietly whispered one last time, "Please," and walked toward him. I didn't follow. I didn't interrupt. I simply watched. The man wrapped his arms around her. Not for long, but long enough to make everyone around them assume they belonged together. My heart should have exploded right there. Instead, I smiled, because something didn't feel right. Olivia wasn't acting guilty. She was acting afraid. There was a difference, a very important difference. The man extended his hand toward me. "Hey, I'm Ryan. You a friend of Olivia's?" For exactly 2 seconds, I looked at his hand. Then I reached forward, shook it, smiled, and introduced myself without revealing a single thing. That was the exact moment. Everything began to change. If you're enjoying this story so far, subscribe, because what Ryan said in the next 5 minutes completely changed the way I saw my fiancée and revealed a secret neither of them thought I would ever discover. The man who thought he had already won Ryan's handshake was firm. Too firm. The kind of handshake men give when they're trying to establish dominance before saying a single word. He smiled at me. "So, how do you know Olivia?" Before I could answer, Olivia quickly stepped in. "Oh, Ethan's just helping me with some business paperwork." Business paperwork? I almost laughed. 4 years together, 3 weeks before our wedding. And now, I was business paperwork. Ryan nodded without questioning it. "Good. I need Olivia for a couple of hours." He said it like he owned the right. Not asked, not requested, declared. Olivia glanced at me for less than a second. I could see it in her eyes. She expected me to explode, to demand answers, to expose everything. Instead, I smiled. "No problem. I'll grab some coffee while you two finish." Ryan grinned. "I like this guy." Most men are way too jealous. Olivia looked down. She couldn't even look at me anymore. That hurt more than anything. I walked inside the cafe, but I didn't order coffee. Instead, I quietly chose a table near the back where I could still see them through the large glass windows. Years earlier, working in corporate security had taught me one important lesson. When people believe you're no longer watching, that's when they stop acting. Ryan and Olivia sat together. At first, they barely spoke. Ryan kept talking. Olivia mostly listened. Then Ryan placed a thick brown envelope on the table. Not flowers, not gifts, documents. Olivia immediately froze. She didn't even touch it. Ryan pushed it closer. She slowly opened it. The moment she looked inside, every bit of color disappeared from her face. She looked absolutely terrified. Not guilty. Terrified. My instincts told me I had been right. This wasn't a romantic reunion. Something else was happening. Something much worse. 10 minutes later, Ryan leaned closer. Even through the glass, I could tell his voice had become serious. Olivia suddenly shook her head. "No." He leaned closer again. She shook her head harder. Ryan smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile anymore. It was a smile of someone who believed he held all the power. Then, he pointed toward me, toward the cafe, toward where he thought I wasn't paying attention. Olivia instantly turned around for one terrifying second. Our eyes met. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She wasn't asking for patience. She was silently begging me not to come outside. That's when I noticed something else. Ryan wasn't wearing his wedding ring anymore, but there was still a pale mark on his finger. Recently removed, recently divorced, or pretending to be. Either way, this man hadn't come here because he missed Olivia. He had come for something, and whatever it was hidden inside that envelope. I had no idea that within the next few minutes, I was about to hear my own name, and everything I believed about my past would begin to fall apart. I heard my own name. I couldn't take my eyes off that brown envelope. Whatever was inside, it had shaken Olivia more than I'd ever seen. She wasn't arguing with Ryan anymore. She was pleading. Even from inside the cafe, I could read her lips. Please, not today. Ryan slowly shook his head. Then, for the first time, he said my name. Ethan. My heart stopped. How did he know my name? Olivia never told him who I was. At least, that's what she had made me believe. Ryan opened the envelope again and pulled out several documents. He placed them on the table one by one. Birth certificates, old photographs, medical files, and finally, one faded letter. He tapped the letter with his finger. You can't hide this from him forever. Olivia looked ready to cry. I know, but I wanted him to hear it from me. Ryan sighed. You've already waited 3 years. If you wait any longer, he'll never forgive either of us. 3 years? What had been hidden from me for 3 years? My mind was racing. Nothing made sense anymore. Then something happened that changed everything. Ryan stood up, picked up the envelope, and started walking. Straight toward the cafe. Toward me. Toward the man he still believed was just Ethan from the paperwork. Olivia immediately stood up too. Ryan, wait! He didn't stop. Every step he took made my heart beat faster. When he reached my table, he pulled out the empty chair across from me. Mind if I sit? I smiled. Go ahead. He sat down, looked me straight in the eyes, then quietly asked, How long have you known Olivia? I answered honestly. 4 years. He nodded slowly. That's longer than I expected. Then he leaned forward. His next sentence completely blindsided me. Did she ever tell you why she disappeared for 6 months? Before she met you? I froze. 6 months? Olivia had told me she was traveling for work during that time. Ryan slowly slid the brown envelope across the table. Open it. She won't. So, I will. Before I could touch it, Olivia rushed inside the cafe. She grabbed the envelope before my fingers reached it. Tears were already running down her face. She looked at me and whispered words I'll never forget. If you read this now, you might never marry me. At that moment, I realized the biggest lie in our relationship had absolutely nothing to do with Ryan. The truth she was terrified to tell me, the cafe had gone completely silent. Olivia clutched the envelope against her chest. Her hands were shaking so badly, I thought she might collapse. She looked at me through tears. Ethan, please, not here. I stood up. No more secrets. Ryan quietly stepped back. For the first time since we'd met, he wasn't acting confident anymore. He simply said, He's right. Olivia slowly closed her eyes. Then she whispered, I knew this day would come. She sat down, took a deep breath, and finally began telling me the truth. 4 years ago, before I met you, my father became seriously ill. I couldn't afford his treatment. I listened without saying a word. She continued. Ryan offered to help, but it wasn't free. I frowned. What did he want? She looked down. He wanted one promise. My stomach tightened. What promise? She swallowed. He wanted me to stay in his life until he felt ready to let me go. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, all those months, you stayed because you had no choice? She nodded. I hated every minute. But my father was dying. I thought I was sacrificing myself to save him. Ryan quietly spoke. She's telling the truth. I was selfish. I loved her. And I thought, if I kept helping her family, she'd eventually come back. I looked at him. You tried to buy her. He lowered his head. Yes. And it's the biggest regret of my life. Olivia continued crying. The day my father recovered, I walked away from Ryan forever. I changed my number. I moved. And a year later, I met you. Everything finally started making sense, but one question still burned inside me. If all of this ended years ago, why are we here today? Olivia looked at the envelope again. Because last week, Ryan found something that belongs to you. My heart skipped a beat. What? She slowly opened the envelope. This time, she didn't stop me. Inside was an old photograph. I stared at it. There was a little boy standing beside a woman, and next to them was Ryan. I looked up in confusion. I've never seen this picture before. Ryan nodded. I know. You weren't supposed to. He took a slow breath, then quietly said the words that turned my entire world upside down. Ethan, your mother knew my family long before you were born. My mind went completely blank. What? Ryan looked straight into my eyes. There are things about your parents you've never been told. And the answer was waiting on the next page of that envelope. The letter my mother never got to give me. I couldn't move. I kept staring at the old photograph. My mother, a little boy, Ryan. It made no sense. I looked up. Who took this? Ryan answered quietly. My father. I frowned. Why would your father know my mother? Ryan slowly sat back down. Because 28 years ago, our families were neighbors. My heart started racing. What are you talking about? He reached into the envelope again. This time, he handed me an old yellow envelope. Across the front, in faded handwriting, were the words, for Ethan, when he's old enough to understand. My hands instantly began shaking. I recognized the handwriting. It was my mother's. I looked at Olivia. She nodded. This is why I wanted to tell you at home. I carefully opened the letter. The paper was old, almost falling apart. The first sentence hit me like a truck. My precious son, if you're reading this, it means I never got the chance to tell you the truth myself. I stopped reading. My vision blurred. For years, I had wished I could hear my mother's voice just one more time. Now, it felt like she was speaking directly to me. The letter explained everything. After my father died, my mother had struggled to raise me alone. Ryan's parents had quietly helped us. They paid our rent, bought groceries, even covered my school fees for almost a year. They never wanted anyone to know, especially me, because my mother believed one day she would repay them, but she became sick before she ever could. My throat tightened. Ryan quietly said, my parents never expected anything back. They only wanted your mother to know she wasn't alone. I looked back at the letter. Near the bottom, there was another paragraph. One my mother had underlined. Never judge people by what they look like at their worst. Sometimes the people carrying the darkest past are the ones trying hardest to become better. I slowly lowered the paper. Everything I believed about Ryan started falling apart. He wasn't trying to steal my fiancée, not anymore. Years ago, maybe, but today, he had only come to return something that belonged to my family. I looked at Olivia. You knew all this? She nodded through tears. I found out 3 weeks ago. I wanted your first time reading your mother's letter to happen at home. Just us. I never imagined today would turn into this. For the first time that evening, I reached for her hand. She squeezed mine tightly, but before I could say anything, Ryan quietly cleared his throat. There is still one thing that neither of you knows. I looked at him. What now? He slowly took one final photograph from the envelope, placed it on the table, and whispered, the man you buried as your father wasn't your biological father. The entire cafe disappeared around me. My world collapsed in complete silence. The truth that saved our future. I felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared. He wasn't your biological father. Ryan's words echoed in my head, over and over again. I couldn't even breathe. What did you just say? Ryan slid the final document toward me. I wish I were wrong. But the DNA records your mother left say otherwise. I looked at Olivia. She was crying harder than ever. I begged him not to tell you like this. I wanted us to go home first. I wanted to be beside you when your world changed. I opened the last document. It was a DNA report. Attached to it was another handwritten note from my mother. I unfolded it. The first sentence shattered me. Ethan, the man who raised you was never your biological father, but he loved you every single day as if you were his own son. Tears rolled down my face. Suddenly, every memory of my dad came rushing back, teaching me to ride a bicycle, working double shifts to buy me my first baseball glove, staying awake all night whenever I was sick. He had known. He had always known. And yet, he never treated me any differently. At that moment, I realized something. Blood creates life. Love creates family. I folded the letter, held it against my chest, and whispered, "He's still my father." Ryan smiled for the first time that evening. "So, that's exactly what your mother hoped you'd say." I turned toward Olivia. She looked completely broken. "I lied. I hid things from you. I was terrified you'd think I was choosing Ryan over you." She fell to her knees in front of me. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted to lose you." I knelt beside her, lifted her face with both hands. "You almost did." She nodded through tears. "I know. But today, we stop hiding. No more secrets. No more closed doors." She wrapped her arms around me and cried into my shoulder. The entire cafe quietly applauded. Not because they had watched drama, because they had watched two people choose honesty instead of fear. Ryan picked up his jacket, walked toward the exit. Before leaving, he looked back one last time. "I'm glad she chose you. You deserve each other." Then he walked away. Forever. 3 weeks later, Olivia and I stood at the altar. Before exchanging rings, she leaned close and whispered, "This time, there are no secrets." I smiled. "And there never will be again." We both laughed through our tears, because the strongest marriages aren't built on perfect trust. They're built on people who decide to tell the truth, even when it hurts. That old envelope changed my life. It took away the family I thought I had, but it reminded me of something even more important. The people who truly love you never need your blood to call you family. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more emotional family drama stories every week. Question for you. If you were in Ethan's place, would you have forgiven Olivia or walked away forever?